So, opening theory still says the fried fox is a terrible idea, but what I'm going to do is try and break my all-time high rating using this opening of the fried fox. Attack or defense, as it is for black. So, let's have a look at some games I played today. Last session, I reached 2178, which is 5 below my previous all-time high. So I just go into this new session with that rating 2178, just trying to crack 2183 and then 2200. So getting some central control here. Our opponent definitely has the upper hand, having a beautiful 4-pawn center and developed pieces. That's all very nice. I'm just wondering at this point, I'll just turn the engine on for a sec, because I was wondering what the best moves here were. I was wondering if it was a d6 or a d5, that kind of thing. The engine's being a little bit slow. Let's have a look. Let's want to go back here. Now d6 is fine, or d5. Let's go back. d5 is the play here. Okay, that's good to know. Let's continue with the real-time playback. Okay, so now white moves knight to h5, h4, which is an interesting square. Let's see what happens here. So, interesting square. I kind of felt like there was maybe some kind of optimal move here, but it just says in terms of the center or taking a pawn, maybe that pawn on d4, but it just said, the computer said just move back to g8 would be the best move here. So, just having a look at this one. So I was thinking, well, I'm going to go for the take on f5. And then try and keep that pawn on d5 solid, maybe draw away some of the fire from the center. But that's actually a blunder there, what white's done, even though they're still winning, of course. And in this position, instead of recapturing on d5, because I do know that that pawn is going to fall anyway, I went for something different. So I'd play pawn to g6, thinking that at least I can lock down f5, and then I can develop knight c6 with tempo. That was my thought at least, and that's what I did. So knight to e5 is the best move here. Pretty sure that is the one I eventually settled on. Just centralizing the knight, attacking the bishop, and all that. So we do have to deal with white's annoying pawn on d5. So they definitely have the edge, and they've got that pawn on c4, which is very strong and can be pushed to c5. So I try to play b6 to deal with it, and then I definitely want to play the queen into d6 at some point, but I don't know if I play that just yet. Okay, so queen d6 was the move there, and I think I tried to go for it next move if memory serves me, but I put the bishop instead on b7, which in hindsight, the bishop's probably fine on c8. It is defending f5, which now we don't have. So after that stacking the exchange, white actually still has a huge winning advantage here. So this has just gotten to a point where I have to play very precisely to make it work, and that was definitely a mistake, because knight e4, which our opponent did find, lets the queen into f6 here. So gets the tempo on our queen, forces it away, and then f6 is coming, and there's not much we can do about it. It also stops our queen going into c5 at any point, because that was maybe an idea down the line, but not happening while that knight is on e4. And of course, knight is completely invulnerable to the pawn because of that pin that the rook had against our king on the f file. Okay, so the crushing move is knight d6. Just comes in, strikes us, and forks the bishop on b7. So opponent found that one. They played very, very well this game. I definitely made a few mistakes, and when you're playing the fried fox, a couple of mistakes is not going to do it. So I was trying to trap the knight. I was trying to be a bit tricky, because when you're down, you're losing, especially in bullet. Never give up. You always want to, try and create some kind of counterplay. So I was trying to trap this knight and be a bit tricky, but unfortunately for us, our opponent found all the right moves and converted this one. So let's just have a look. They bring the bishop into. It's just really, I really can't fault this. So bringing the bishop, the pawn, essentially everything is coming flying in, just to finish this one off. So let's just put these last couple of moves through. bishop e4, and then at this point, I'm getting mated either way. So coming here, and then we get mated on h6. That was the first game. Started off the day with a loss, and then we'll go into the second game here. Let's get the real-time playback. That's kind of a cool effect. So what's been happening, I'm just getting used to this new video software, and I messed up the live recording again. So hopefully next time we'll get a live reaction to the games, but for now we'll just replay the games today, because I'm going over every single game that I've played between when I started this challenge at 2113 or whatever it was, and 2200, which is where I'm trying to reach. So the story was, for those of you who've missed it, I took a bit of time off chess, was maybe playing a casual game like once every fortnight, just a bullet or a blitz game, and wasn't really playing that often. I was trying to focus on poker, so I was learning a lot of poker theory and playing a lot of poker, but I decided to focus on chess again, and I've decided that, you know what, it's been a while since I've really taken chess somewhat seriously, where I've made a serious effort to play every day. And I'm going to try and play every day and record the games I play that are bullet. In any case, I will play some blitz games and just fool around and try out some other openings, but I will be playing bullet games, and every time I play bullet, I will be recording the fried fox. So that's the pawn to f3 or f6, king to f2, f7. It's a terrible opening. Don't try it at home, but it may shock your opponents a little bit. So you can see in this game that we managed to gobble up a couple of pawns, but I did miss this. The knight is coming into e5, and it's, you know, we're up material, we're up 3 points, but it's far from a clear win for us. So this is a bit of a struggle. Let's have a look and see what the engine says. Actually, let's see what the engine's evaluation is. So it is a winning position for us. Let's see how I go at trying to convert this one. So we've got that knight pinned away, and knight f3 is the best move, which is the one we do play. Let's see what our opponent does. So here, bishop to e6. Okay, it says knight d4, but we did play just the bishop out. I was thinking kind of like, I wanted to play bishop c4, but our opponent kind of beat me to the punch there, because I chose to play knight f3 first. So I thought I'll settle for bishop d3, get control, maybe ideas of playing bishop g6, swapping off for the knight, that kind of thing. Just get a bit of control over those kingside light squares. So knight d7 was played, knight d4 was the best move, but I missed that one, and I just developed the other knight, a natural kind of move. So now our queen is getting kicked around like a soccer ball for a bit, so we have to be very careful not to mess this one up and make sure that our queens never gets trapped at any point. So that's fine. And then our opponent goes for the very unusual move, king over to d7. Very weird move. Knight d4 is best apparently. Yes, I see why now. That is a great move, just blasting the king into the open. So knight d4, let's have a look what the computer's recommended line is. Knight d4, bishop b4. Now what would happen if knight d4 and then we played something like this? So this is still very winning for us. So, but that's not what happened. I played something else. I played e4, which was a mistake. So almost all that advantage just gone down the gutter. I was thinking, well, you know, the king's in the center. They've got a couple of minor pieces. Maybe we can charge those pawns down the board into the minor pieces, and just kind of either win something or get some pass pawns happening and attack on the king. So opponent found a very strong knight h8, and then knight g3. So that is interesting. Oh, the knight could come in there first, and then now the scales swing in black's favor. So we should have snuck back a bit, but now I was a bit too greedy grabbing the pawn, thinking I was still ahead at this point. But unfortunately, look, even though black's king's in an awkward position, I mean, obviously so is ours, and our queen is just in a devastating position. So rook g8, and I didn't see that. Really, the problem with taking that pawn is it's a poison pawn, because after rook g8, then there actually are no safe squares for the queen. So I was trying not to get my queen trapped, but I got too greedy and got my queen trapped. And the whole reason I didn't see the no safe squares, I think I can go h6. Well, I went h6, and of course, our opponent came in and forked us, and that's all she wrote. So I tried to bravely fight on, tried not to give up, tried to give my opponent hell, but unfortunately, our opponent played an excellent game and converted. Whoops, and got the win there. So just get the speed through to the rest of this game. So we just swapped a few things off, and then our opponent came in with a deadly attack, and there was nothing I could do. So that was that game. So let's move on to the next game. Let's get the engine fired up for this one. Okay, so starting with our favorite, and it's a mistake, says the computer, and it's an inaccuracy. So nothing too surprising there. Play e6, e3, e6 is very, very common. If we can't get d4, a clean d4 straight away, e3, e6 is my go-to. So does like the bishop out there, which I think we might have played at some point. Yeah, we did play that. So just because we're a bit low on space in these positions, the computer likes a lot of those bishop b4, bishop b5 lines to put pressure on that knight on c3 or c6 and create a bit of space, some squares. Because look, if the bishop goes on e7, then there's no there's no square for that knight on g8. So really, if the bishop goes out there, then sometimes we can chop exchange for that knight on c3, double back in some situations, but essentially we're creating space for that knight on it to go to e7 without having that bishop trapped behind the knight. So that's the reason why the computer likes that move. So I went for the exchange here. What does it think of that? It says f5's best, but it doesn't seem overly bothered by the exchange. So I played the knight to the best developing square. And now in these cases, look, sometimes you might think that knight to takes f6 is a very natural move, but the reality is that well, one thing is then there's a beautiful hole for the knight on e5 or g5, and then the other problem with this position is then we have a backward e6 pawn, which can be very difficult to defend. So it's not all sunshine and rainbow. So I prefer, and the computer prefers, to play the pawn takes on f6. Yes, there's the nasty looking hole on the h5 to e8 diagonal. Yes, I understand that there's bishops and queens that can come flowing in there. But look, in a lot of those lines, if we play something like knight g6, it kind of shuts everything down. And then we've got solid king side, a solid center, and it's a bit patchwork, but it's not the end of the world. So let's see what the best here was, actually taking with the knight. Oh, no, it likes taking with the e pawn. So that's really interesting. That's definitely better than what I played, which was this one. I see that the advantage of taking with the e pawn is then we can allow the space for that bishop. That bishop's not so shut in on c8, so it's a bit stronger there, and we can kind of exercise some dominance over white's king side a little bit. So yeah, okay, so let's have a quick look at what the computer recommends here after e takes d5. Let's go bishop d3, knight g6, and then knight df8. So yeah, we're opening up everything for that bishop, and then kind of going about our business, trying to get something started. On the king side, obviously white is still ahead, but we've got some kind of counterplay going. So let's go back to what was played. C takes d5, castles, knight f5, and I played the knight back to d6, which is a bit of an inaccuracy. So yeah, the only way to defend against this one, look, there's so many threats. It's either f5 or h5. I went for h5. Obviously, it's something like bishop to e2 puts a bit of pressure on h5, but actually the best move apparently is rook c1. So opponent decides to come in here. At this point where we kind of maybe starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So white's still rated as up, but we've got some kind of attack going here. So we're attacking the knight on h4, and the knight can't just double back to f3 because then the bishop is hanging on h5. So the only move for white is knight down there to g6. So this is a mistake because we can come into g5 and we can attack that bishop, and if the bishop moves, which is what we played, and then if the bishop moves, then we've got the pin on the knight So we can take that one. So this is, I was interested to see what the best move is here, because I was thinking on one hand I can take on a h5 with the rook or the queen, but the problem is then the queen comes in at e6. Like, is that much of an issue? Because I was thinking, well, what if we do, say, rook takes? Oh, that's actually a terrible move. Let's just say queen here, then, it's still fine, but this is interesting. Okay. And then the queen. Oh, okay. So that looks pretty strong. So we definitely made the right choice. Now, when the queen came here, we played the knight to e4, just blocking everything down, making sure the queen can't come into e6. Also getting that knight to an active square, we get offered an exchange for that bishop, because that knight on h4 and that bishop on h5 aren't going anywhere. We're going to win one of them no matter what. So that's what happens. And then, okay, doubles back. Oh, actually, that's a good move. So the reason I went to h7 and not h8, just because that bishop on that diagonal, but turns out that's actually a great move. Maybe the computer as well was thinking that, that way the rook can come over from the a file, swing nice and easily. That's probably the main reason. Swing nice and easily into h8, get that battery happening. Okay, so I was considering, do we just ignore and just play queen h5? So this is an interesting line to look at. Because what do we do here? Bishop h1. Okay. So we take. But what I really want to look at is not if bishop h1. Like, what if they played the very natural looking takes? Oh, of course. I was thinking then I had to come into h2, but no, of course, the queen is just hanging. So never mind that. That was definitely, if I'd seen that, I definitely would have, if I'd seen the queen was hanging, I definitely would have just played queen h5 straight away without a second thought. But instead I took the knight, took on c3, they recaptured, yep, and then knight f6, just defending that e-pawn with the bishop, and then we bring the queen to the h-file, okay, get the bishop, defend that b5 square, get the bishop off the back rank, allow the rook to swing over to h8 if necessary. So I wasn't sure what the best move was here, but I went for that exchange, maybe not the best. So it was saying, what was it saying was better? It's saying, say, queen h6, but my question is, what if this, and then takes, and then queen here? Like, oh, well, I suppose that is fine. Yeah, and then next move, and then you've got rook g8 coming very, very soon. So that's actually much better than what I did play. But let's move on. So just a few moves here. And then this is a blunder. I was thinking, I'm trying and target c3, get something happening. I'm not in any danger. But yes, they found the very strong rook to e5. And that's actually where our attack has kind of evaporated. So knight e4 was the move. It's interesting. So it's really liking this. Yeah, so knight e4, and then we just double back to. So if the queen comes in, we just double back to h8. We're fine. We're absolutely laughing because we've got so much going on here. Everything's defended. So that's fine. So rook c8 is what I played. I made another mistake with the queen here. I should have gone for the trade on h4. It's actually, and that's a mistake. So they went from winning to losing in this one move. The balances have swung in our favor again. So. And then the only real move I saw here, I thought, well, at least we're exchanging something. Made a mistake there. So what was that? What was the best move? Rook takes h3. Ooh. Yeah, that's very, very strong. Rook takes h3. If d takes e6, bishop takes e6. Ooh, that is beautiful. Queen f6, queen takes f6, rook takes f6, bishop c4. Okay, so it's looking very. That was a strong move. Rook takes h3, which I did not find, so I played this one instead. And then that was a mistake as well, apparently. So king g8 stops everything, but reason is king g8 is much better than king h8 because then white has this check on d4. So the check on d4, and now they take that one. And at this point, we're getting quite low on time. They've got about 10 seconds. We've got 13 seconds. So just trying to scramble here. Trying to scramble to convert this one. And then we... Oh, mistake. Apparently this is a drawn position. Wow. So g8 was the move with 12 seconds on my clock. I definitely did not find that one. I don't know. Oh, and that's a terrible mistake apparently. So king g8, and then bang, another back-to-back terrible mistakes by our opponent. And oh, I didn't even somehow even miss that rook was hanging. I just guess blindness. I was just thought I'm going to get my rook in the game. So yeah, and then I knew it was check and then mate. So that was our win for the day. Let's go to the next game. Just have a quick drink break. Let's get the real-time replay on. So favorite opening. Starting off with their usual disadvantage, getting d5 in. c5, very natural looking move. Yeah, that is what I played. c3, just developing the knight, so all the pieces to all the natural squares. Bishop d7 probably should have been the move I played at this point, but I went for the exchange there. And then I think I played, oh, okay, so queen b6, just going for that bit of attack on the pawn. Not the wisest move. I probably should have focused on getting my minor pieces out first. So instead of fooling around with the queen on b6, just get my bishop to d7, bishop to b4, knight to g to e7, that kind of thing. Because now our queen is just under the pump and we keep hopping around. So let's see what happened here. Okay, I went for b5 here, which actually the computer does like. I thought I just want to kick that knight back again, gain a bit of space on the queen side, because space is sometimes limited in this opening, and it was on this particular board. So I upped around again with the queen. The computer was not a fan of that. It's really telling me, get that knight to e7. Surely we play that at some point. But did I get the bishop out first, though? Yeah, it looks like I did. So this is just basically, opponent hasn't really played any major errors. I haven't played any major errors. They're kind of just converting. Well, this would be the first one apparently, but we're kind of just converting. They're kind of converting their opening advantage. So it takes. Okay, not too bad. And then he just keeps screaming at me to get that knight off g7. Do we finally play it? Yes, we do. We get the knight into e7. E takes, and then takes. Okay, so that's a mistake, and the reason is I didn't spot this at the time, but of course the discovery, discovery, hit the queen, hit the bishop. Yeah, that would have been great, but I missed that one. And then we play that, and then start something, try and get something started on the king side here. So the move that they like, oh, and I did find it, rook ag8, and then followed by queen f4. Wow, look at me picking two stockfish moves back to back. Let's go. So now the advantage is firmly with us, and they've got to do something about this knight. So what was the best move here? I'm curious. Bishop f1. So they just have to give that knight up. That's really interesting. So yeah, that's right. There was no square for that knight, so I come across and munch it. Munch, and then munch. So that was an interesting tactic because it stops the whole pin idea. It really stops it in its tracks. So I have to take with the rook because otherwise I'm just losing a queen, not even getting their queen. So they take. After all this nonsense, we are up 2 points and threatening a fork. So somehow they missed the fork, which we're very excited to get in. And then at this point, I'm thinking, well, this is totally winning. But as you'll see, the chess gods, or rather my my potential lack of ability, definitely has a little surprise for me. So definitely messed up here, but so the problem is they have this knight coming in potentially, and I was a bit worried about the knight coming in, so ironically played knight e7, but that lets the rook in to a7. So should have just played pawn to e5, kept consolidating, building in the center, and I can play king e6 or something like that later. But missed that one, and then of course as soon as I played the move, I've only got 30 seconds left on the clock, I realized, wow, this is absolute disaster. I'm losing minor pieces everywhere. And then look, it's just one piece after another. So the move here was knight c8. That's the only move that kind of saves everything, because then if rook comes to to b7, then we take on b6, but I instead went for this one, which is the wrong way around. We need to go to c8, where we're attacking both of them, and then they simply move, and then, oh, the check might have saved it. Rook g8, and then it's telling me rook g8's best, and then king e8. Yep, so that would have saved everything as well, but instead I went for sacking the exchange. So obviously we're still winning, but not as comfortably as before. So we're getting to this end game where we've got a bit of an imbalance, but we are winning. We're both quite low on time. I'm slightly lower, and I think that time pressure started to get to me because I'm making mistakes, I'm hanging pawns, and then eventually I just straight up lose my bishop. So as soon as this happens, I know I'm in a lot of trouble, and I'm blunder. Don't even think about it. I just play d4, and I think as soon as I play d4, I'm like, well, that's not the right move, because I can double my knight back to c6, and then defend the squares on e5 and d4, and then march my king down and play d4. But as soon as I played it, I knew I'm letting that king into e4, and then I thought, wow, I've just let one blunder lead to another, and of course, it's only a matter of time till our opponent, with a bit of a time advantage, converts this slightly winning position. So just put the rest of this one through, and it's a bit of a frustrating one to be winning majorly and then eventually lose this one. So I'm a bit unfortunate that one. So we'll go on to the next game. Let's have a quick drink break. Let's have a look at what happened here. So playing our favorite Right, Fox. We get the d4. We love that. Love to see a nice strong center. I was actually quite happy with how the early stages. Let's have a look at the computer. Thanks to this position. Yeah, it's actually giving white the advantage here because we've got a solid. Our opponent hasn't come out and punished us with the strong center. We've got a solid position. We're actually up, and we've got h4. H5. Just keep pushing our pawns, gaining a lot of space. Developing to try and get to solid squares, and just putting attacks on all the pieces, and then swinging the knight into the squares we want to swing it into. So you've still got a slight advantage here, and I tried to get some shenanigans. Likes queen e2, bishop c2. I see then queen d3. So trying to line up that kind of attack. Okay, let's try and swap the queen and bishop around here. Let's have a look at that variation. That looks interesting. So, whoops. No. I want to go back to here. Oh, now it's saying bishop h7 is the move. So, anyway, that's one we did play. King h8. That's interesting. It kind of was telling me to play something else at first, but no, that's interesting. So I tried to go for something tricky here, but it all kind of just fizzles out. Nothing happens. They bring the knight into that excellent e4 square, so we're kind of forced to trade that off. Yeah, and then the rook comes in. So at this point, I get my bishop onto that beautiful c5 square. Now, because they don't have any knights left and no dark square bishop, that bishop is essentially lodged there unless black sacrifices something. So I'm trying to just lock everything down, and then on the queen side with a3, and then I try and make some aggression on the king side. Now the Stockfish does like the move, which they did play, which was sacking the bishop there, and they do still like black slightly here. I was actually at this point I thought I was winning. Now this is losing. Now why is that losing? Because of what happened, of course. So I missed it twice. That this problem here is f4, which is devastating. So what was the correct move here? Queen d3. Okay, get the queen off that file so we can recapture the player 4, of course. Unfortunately, not what happened at all that game. So I missed the f4, and then we've got kind of a bit of a material advantage. 1 point up for black at this point. They've only got 4 seconds on the clock, and we've got about 10 seconds. But this is interesting. So it says best is to sack. Best is to sack, and there's a very good reason why the best move is to sack there. But we're losing regardless. because of this ladder mate is just happening. So nothing we could do to stop that at the end there. So let's go to the final game of the night, looking for some redemption with our fried fox. And coming into this position again, which we saw in the first game. I think it was the first game. I didn't really comment on it at the time, but essentially this is a blunder for black. We just get a free pawn, and we come in striking on d5. The best move here is f5 and just retreat, but I try to kind of overplayed my hand a bit. So I've tried to get the queen in, and if you do this, you have to play bishop b5 to make sure that the knight on c6 is pinned, but I didn't do that. I missed that completely. Played f4, and then of course they come in with the discovery, which still winning for black, but not as winning as knight c5 would have been. Okay, and then at this point, I completely blunder because I was, sometimes in these openings, one of my weak points is playing, I think if I play, like, for example, in this position, I figure, well, queen f3, king f3, I can't see any immediate threats to my king. And king e2, well, I don't want to block my light squared bishop. Or king e1, well, to be fair, I didn't really consider it at the time, but king e1 clearly looks the best to me now. But even king e2, is far better than king f3, because that's actually mate 9. The reason is I missed queen to d1, which our opponent, very kudos to them, they certainly found that one. So best case scenario, it's a fork, but as you can see by the stockfish evaluation, it's actually a mate in 9. So the problem with a lot of these king moves that I really need, there's a lesson I need to learn, even if I think, well, if I move my king to the center, it kind of looks safe. Look, they do it in the fried liver. The reality is, and I have actually a lot of experience playing a line. I'll show you quickly. A lot of experience. What I was doing pretty much the last couple of years, and just in my casual chess games, was playing something like this. So I was playing a line queen g3. It's not actually devastatingly bad. Like, you can see, it doesn't drop the rating by a heap. When I was white, I would do it and then kind of just backtrack the king just for the extra troll factor. But as you can tell, it's better not to do it. But because of that, and because I've gotten away doing it so many times, and in a lot of positions, it is okay to kind of do it. I'm prone to make these king moves to the center when I really shouldn't be, when I really should take the more passive route and just play something safe. So in this case, our opponent comes in and just plays a pretty devastating attack. You can see the bishops that black has, and then the knight on g4 and the queen. It's all combining for a very deadly attack, and there's pretty much nothing we can do to stop it. I had to give away a ton of material, and then there's just no stopping it. I was wondering if it looks almost like a smothered mate or some kind of situation here, but no, there's nothing like that. So just trying to go for it. Last desperate trick, but no, nothing happened, and we just got mated, or we ran out of time, as the case may be. So that was the session. Lost 28 rating points, dropped from 2178 to 2150. A bit of a disappointing session, but a lot of lessons learned. So we're playing every day. I'm doing my tactics every day. We're learning lessons. So we will hit 2200 one day. We will hit 2200 using this crazy opening, this troll opening, the fried fox. So if you enjoyed this video, if you found it instructive, please drop a like. If you want to follow me on my journey, please subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.